Good evening. At this time, we'll carry on the meeting of the regular meeting of the Wallingford Inland Wetlands Watercourse Commission to order. The date is February 6, 2019, and the time is 7:03. Will you join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Eileen McKean.
Nick Kern.
Jim Vitale.
David Parent.
Deborah Phillips.
Michael Caruso. Robert Simon.
Aaron O'Hare, Environmental Planner.
Okay, now consideration of the minutes from the December 5th meeting. I don't recall why they weren't ready last month. No, we had a modification to change.
The January
Don't get upset.
meeting
Don't
was
get-
canceled, right?
Pardon me?
The January meeting was canceled.
Right, okay, that's why then there's, I thought there was we were checking on some wordage on one of them, but, okay. Any corrections or modifications to the January meeting, excuse me, to the December 5th meeting's minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Town of Wallingford Inland Wetlands and Water Commission be of December 5th, 2018 be approved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Call for a vote. Ally?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Nick?
Yes.
Jim? Yes. Boy, I gotta get on the program tonight. Okay. Item 1 on the agenda, or under old business, item A, 18, 12.2, 320/340 Barnes Road.
Yeah, I'm going to put it up right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, for the record, my name is Dennis Senaviva. I'm with the Senaviva Law Firm. I represent the owner and applicant. To my left is John Gable from Connecticut Consulting Engineers, who is our project engineer. To my right is Bob Day, Robert Day, who is our architect. The property before you this evening actually are two parcels. As you know from the application, it's 320 and 340 Barnes Road. 320 Barnes Road is developed with the operation of Roland Technologies. It's an operation that's been there for about 15 years. 320 Barnes Road, as you can tell from the application, is about 8.5 acres in size, again developed with the existing industrial building. They've been before you, as you note from the environmental planner's report in the past. They've done some expansion at the site. They were back here last in 2015. The plan this evening is to expand again at about 34,000 square feet or so. And in order to accomplish that, they've acquired the rights to purchase 340 Barnes Road, which is immediately to the east of the site. That property is currently a house, but that would be raised and incorporated into this overall site plan. We are here before the Commission because of the amount of new impervious area that's proposed under the terms of this particular plan. It does rise to the level of your jurisdiction. So John is going to go to the board and give you information about our stormwater management and what our proposal is, Mr. Chairman.
And this is a proposal that you may not build if you don't buy the house.
Actually, they're going to purchase the house. We're in front of the P&Z. The company was purchased by a French company, I believe. German, I'm sorry. And so the plan is definitively to go forward with this particular approval should we get it.
Good evening.
Test.
Okay. Good evening. For the record, John Gable with Connecticut Consulting Engineers. As Dennis stated, we're here before you because of the surface area provision. And with our proposal, we are proposing 2 drainage systems as part of this development. And I wanted to Our first system is a modification of the existing drainage system located to the westerly part of the site. It collects drainage from the existing parking lot, which where the addition is going to be coming over. We have to modify this to create a new parking lot. And currently, there's no treatment for this drainage system that discharges to the city system out at the intersection of Barnes Road and Barnes Parks Road North. There's a drainage system right here that runs south. Part of our proposal is to install 2 new catch basins at the new entrance, close up the old entrance, and convert those catch basins to manholes. This will be routed to a new oil water separator, grit separator, which will treat the new runoff and then discharge to the west as it currently does. The second system consists of catch basins and a storm tech infiltration system. This is going to collect water from the main aisle, all the roof runoff, and it's going to convey this to the storm tech infiltrators, be treated with an isolator row for oil and grit sand, and it's going to discharge into the on-site soils right here, which is adjacent to the wetlands. The existing system currently for this building and the parking area here is being conveyed through a pipe flare-in section to the sediment basin here, and there's roof leaders that connect into a storm infiltration trench that discharges to the wetland to the east. So we're providing treatment for the, or conveyance for the roof runoff to this infiltration system. And we're adding treatment here that doesn't exist. We're enhancing the drainage system here.
I think, Mr. Chairman, we may want to note that there is no activity within the wetlands, certainly, or in the upland review area, other than the discharge of the stormwater into the wetlands. And as John points out, currently, the way that the stormwater is handled, it discharges into the town system without any pre-treatment. So that's been added as part of this plan. And of course, the new parking area that's proposed for 340 barns, because again, as you're moving the building forward, which would be southerly along the site, you're losing the existing parking spaces, so they're moving over to the southeasterly side of the property, which would be 340 barns, and that site is now being treated with the infiltrators, taking the roof water, so that can also infiltrate into the ground, as I know this commission prefers. So again, all of it is being treated, and other than the discharge into that wetlands, again, that's our activity. There isn't anything within, again, either the wetlands or the upland review area.
Okay, I don't know if it's to do with our mic, but it was very difficult to hear that
You can tell,
presentation.
yeah.
All right,
Closer.
Closer? Oh,
there you go. That's better. Okay, but you handed out maps tonight, and you handed out a lot of stuff tonight that we certainly can't look at tonight. What was it different with what you handed out tonight than what we had before?
I think what, the only difference, as I understand, John and Aaron can certainly talk to that better than I, but my understanding is it was providing some definition. Weren't changes, but for example, there was some clarification of the plans that were originally submitted. Aaron came up with legitimate concerns as to the detail in the plan. So it's really the details. I mean, I think that the plans themselves, they're not complicated plans in the sense that, again, we're adding some parking area. Actually, it's a reduced parking area. We went to the ZBA to reduce the amount of parking spaces that were required under the regulation. There's a minimum number of parking spaces based on the size of the building that's being proposed. We don't have that many, that need for it. We were able to prove that to the ZBA. So we've reduced the amount of parking. All of that works well in terms of minimizing the amount of new impervious area. And again, I think what John was trying to explain to the commission is the fact that from the last time of submission to tonight, it was just a question of getting anything that Aaron thought was appropriate to be on the plans. For example, there's some detail on there about the stormwater management that was, again, just a question of that plan being reviewed, and I think Aaron's fine with it, but you can certainly ask her. There was some other information that was missing, as you may know, from the original staff letter that we received, and all that's been incorporated into the plans. But John, perhaps you can go into greater detail what you've
Yes.
added since the original submission.
When we submitted the plans, there was some concerns about phasing, because it's an active site. We have trucks coming in and out the main entrance. So Aaron, we sat down with Aaron to discuss in great detail of how we're going to develop this in phases. And if you look at your packets, the erosion sheets, there's phase 1, 2, and 3. It walks us through each detail of how we're proposing this without having any impact to the current employees' access and truck access. So phase 1 is the demolition of the house septic system well, and with the S&E control measures around here.
Louder, John.
And,
Go ahead, Aaron.
Could you speak up, John?
yep, is it better? Okay. The second phase is the construction of the parking lot here. With the drainage systems, temporary sediment basin, construction entrances, stockpile. And the third phase is the construction of the proposed addition and associated parking lot and drainage. So at this point, they'll be able to drive through here from the new and park here while they're working on this piece. So that was the big change that Aaron and I were hashing out recently for more detail on how we're going to do this.
Well, if your issues are just the impervious surface, what have you got to say, Aaron?
Well, excuse me, I have 2 environmental planners reports. One went out in your packet. You got that over the weekend. The other one I did today because we were fine-tuning this 3-phase erosion control plan. Because it's a very busy, active site, with the traffic coming in, you know, we have to have 2 entrances, and so phase 1 is on the residential property, that'll be phase 1. Then phase 2 will be,
The parking lot.
on that currently residential use property, but it's zoned industrial, but it's, correct, it is zoned industrial,
It is.
correct? Okay, then they're gonna build that parking lot, so then people will have a place to park while they're ripping apart the west side of the site.
All
So
right.
that's phase 3. So that's the single sheet I handed out tonight, and I'm recommending, I'm good with it. They responded to everything I asked for, and I have 5 conditions of approval. One is a bond. I said $20,000 bond. The standard erosion control, I get to check the erosion controls in this case before each phase, phase 1, 2, and 3. Spill control plan, I didn't ask for a spill plan. They were going ahead and doing that because of the chemical products they make at this site. They were gonna do that anyway. So they're willing to hand that in. Signage, I've been doing this a lot on recent development sites. Signage, the DEP emergency spill number, right there on a sign on the side of the building. And so they went along with that too. That's a condition of approval. And then the last one is just a reminder, any modifications during planning and zoning, I gotta look at it, and it might need to come back and modify your wetland permit. Sometimes developers get their planning and zoning approval and they think they're done. No, sometimes you have to go back to wetlands.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments? Ally, Nick?
Just a quick one. The dwelling that's here you're taking down, is there a septic or sewer?
It's septic system
What's
as well.
What's going to happen to that?
It's completely removed from the lot.
So it's taken off-site?
Yes.
Okay.
Dave? Debbie?
No.
Mike?
No questions.
Bob? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion regarding significant activity.
Chairman, I make a motion that application A18-12.2, 320 and 340 Barnes Road be deemed not a significant activity.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Call for a vote. Ally?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, then at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny this application.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that application A18-12.2, 320 and 340 Barnes Road, Roland Technology, Industrial Edition, be approved.
Motion made, seconded?
Second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion?
Condition? And that's with,
Oh, excuse me.
With conditions.
Oh, yeah. Be approved with the 5 conditions set forth in a environmental planner's report dated February 6, 2009.
Motion made, seconded.
Second.
you can have it.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? Ally? Nick?
Nope.
Dave?
Nope.
Debbie?
No.
No. Yes. Motion approved.
No, there's no discussion.
Oh, there's no issues.
Now it's the vote.
Okay. Wait a minute, I'm, forgive me tonight. Don't seem to have it together. You made the motion.
Right. I seconded.
It was seconded.
Then
We
you
had
asked
no-
for discussion.
Nope.
Right, and there was no
No
discussion.
discussion.
Okay.
So now we can
Okay,
call for a vote.
I'll call for a vote, I'm sorry. Ally?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
All right, under new business, application A14 7.2, 195 Chimney Hill Road, Sunwood Development, request for bond release. Aaron?
Okay, they're not quite ready. There's a stubborn little erosion control issue, so.
Did the tree issue get straightened out? Did they replant anything?
No, they didn't replant anything.
Wasn't that part of the request after they took down?
It was considered, and it was thought that, at least I agreed with them, that the deer are just gonna eat those baby trees on the edge of the field.
You agreed to what?
If they put in 2 baby oak trees,
Yeah,
that the deer would eat them. And the other oak trees arch over like this, so it's not like there's a gaping hole in the woods. The oak trees on either side are very full, so that's how it was left. And the trees they cut down, they say were rotten. I didn't see them, but they said they were, as many old oak trees are, they got that hollow center in the middle, so. So all of the above.
all right. A16, application A16 4.5, 29 Tully's Road, FedEx Ground Packaging System, request for final bond release.
Okay, that is a $15,000 bond. I'm recommending a release. I've been out there several times, oh gosh, maybe 6 times with the contractor. The contractor's done, and that's why they want the bond released. Now it turns over to FedEx proper. And I had discussions with FedEx, they're ready to take it on, and I'm going to meet with them to do a little tutorial, because they're used to taking care of their building and their parking lot. They're not used to going in the woods and taking care of the erosion controls that are in the woods.
So anyway, what's happening to this bond? It's
So,
being released to FedEx Ground Packaging.
It's being released totally, and I'm just saying from this point forward, FedEx, as per the original conditions of approval, from this point forward, FedEx is supposed to report to me for the next 5 years and hand me a report that they understand.
All right. Any discussion, kind of a vote to release their bond?
I just have
Or
one.
a motion to release their bond?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that application A16-4.5, 29 Tully's Road, FedEx Ground Packaging System, request for final bond release, be approved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Aaron, I have one question. Is there any plantings we need to be aware of that need to be a 1-year cycle?
Plants?
plantings, did you
No,
request
they-
anything special? So you talked about wetland species in the back there? No?
Not on this site.
Okay.
They been working on the site for like 4 years.
Right.
They did their plantings around the pond.
Okay.
They did all that like 3 years ago.
Okay,
They're good with plantings,
all right,
yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? Call for vote. Ally?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Receipt of new applications, A19 1.1, 15 Windswept Hill Road, Paradise Vineyard and Winery. Now, this is just on the acceptance. We don't really have a presentation scheduled, but you would like to share with us? The fact we haven't seen you in such a long time, I would think it's an honor to.
I don't know if I'd call it an honor, but as I typically do when the applications are accepted, I like to at least give everyone a brief overview and then get any comments if there's any concerns, because then I can have the month to work on that. So I like to do this to try to get a little bit of input at the beginning. So as all the commission, I believe, is aware, this is Paradise Hill Vineyards. There was a site walk this past fall regarding some potential or possible erosion control issues actually going onto the property to the north, which is actually owned by Albert Ruggiero, who is one of the co-owners and members within this organization. 15 Windswept Hill Road is owned by Richard Ruggiero. So what the process or what the plan is basically to expand their parking lot behind the winery. Basically to form up a more formal parking lot, because it is kind of an odd shape. In doing that, we've been requested by planning and zoning to remove the parking that's on the neighboring property, Al's property, and do some other expansion of, and basically some clarification of the driveway entrance from Windswept all the way through into this property. So the reason why we're here is because we tripped the impervious surface requirement. And going back through the file, I believe, I don't think Paradise Vineyards ever came before the commission originally over impervious surface. So we're trying to correct that issue. We are expanding what they have out there now. We're going from about 63,530 square feet up to about 77, a little over 77,300 as far as impervious, semi-impervious surface. We are, from the property line, from where our work is really taking place, we're 154 feet away from the wetlands on the property to the north. So one of the things that Aaron had been concerned about, and the reason for the site walk, was that runoff coming through here may be causing erosion on the parcel to the north. So what we're calling for is a row of boulders and cobbles at the edge of the parking lot, right along the property line. And what that'll do is that'll take the sheet flow that's starting to get concentrated into shallow flow and then disperse it. It'll slow any velocities, break it back up, and change it back into sheet flow so it can continue to infiltrate into the ground. One of the comments that Erin had, she was concerned about pre-treatment of this runoff off this gravel parking lot. And although this 154 feet is quite a distance, according to the 2002 Connecticut guidelines for this type of soils, for really to get a pre-treatment surface, we need to have about 174 feet. So as part of the plan, we're going to call for a grass-lined swale right behind the cobbles. So that'll lengthen our water flow, allowing any of the runoff to have longer time to flow, to get infiltrated, and then it'll flow through the woods here. And basically that way we're pre-treating it, slowing it down, getting it to infiltrate before it goes to the wetlands. So we're taking a very low-tech approach to basically treating the stormwater and getting it to infiltrate. And that kind of goes with the whole green concept of what they're trying to do. Gravel parking lot and trying to keep the winery and farm as natural as possible. So that's kind of an overview of what we're doing and the reason we're here. And as I said, many of the commissioners were out this past fall, so I know you're familiar with the site, and I think we had talked about some of this at that time. So if there's any questions about what we're planning, I'd be happy to answer them if I can, or if you have any concerns that I can take back to my office, that'll help too.
I don't think I have anything.
I have two. Is the wall on the brother's property or on the property of the vineyard?
The cobbles will be on the vineyard's property.
What about the grass stripping behind it?
The grass strip and swale is actually going to be on 12 Windswept. It is on their property because we are removing the gravel, so it's a perfect opportunity. We're already disturbing some of the area.
And how's that going to be maintained?
Well, we'll have as part of the maintenance, so that won't be a problem, and I can get that to Aaron in the interim month. And we'll have Aaron ask for documentation from the client's attorney, which we will be providing regarding drainage rights to do just that.
That'll come from the brother?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
There was some issue with health in the family, and that's the only reason why I haven't submitted it to Aaron just yet. I haven't been able to get it, but I understand as of late today, everything's ready to go. I just didn't have a chance to get it.
Okay.
Dave? Debbie?
No.
Mike?
No comments.
What type of gravel? When you say gravel, there's a lot of varieties of gravel. What does your gravel consist of this, on this parking lot?
Basically, anything that's going to be put down for the parking lot will be processed stoned. True gravel.
Three-quarter inch processed
Yes.
trap rock.
Yes. And just to clarify, my office had some discussions with Eric Kruger. I wanted a clarification because there was some talk of pavement on this site, which we're not doing. There was also some talk of millings, which we're not doing. It will be gravel, crushed rock, trap rock, that kind of thing. So true gravel.
Okay, and when this winery, well, you're going to have it open 12 months a year? Is it 6 months a year, 3 months a year?
It's open all year round.
All right. All right, I'm all set. Aaron, you got anything, or you'll deal with it when it's down in your office?
Yeah, I'll be preparing an environmental planner's report
Yep.
for the
Okay.
next time.
All right, I think we're all set. Okay, application A19 1.2, 320 Washington Street, Town of Wallingford Public Works, boathouse demolition. Aaron and I had a discussion on this, and we decided that it was okay to give them administration approval, mainly because it's between Public Works and Engineering is really handling the soil and erosion control on this demolition job. Is there any concerns with the group? Okay. All right. A19 1.3, 5 Research Parkway, Wallingford LLC. This is a request for administration approval of the demolition of the Bristol Myers building and the powerhouse. Correct, Aaron?
Yes.
All right. And now, Erin has told me, and she can say for herself, but both planning and zoning and water and sewer have reviewed the demolition plans and have given them the go-ahead, and given them a permit, the planning and zoning given them a permit with bonding. I believe Erin has gone over the plans and discussed the soil and erosion controls that she's concerned about, which they've incorporated.
Oh, yes.
And they've incorporated all Erin's requests, and she felt that an additional bond by inland wetlands wasn't necessary with planning and zoning already has it. But you go ahead, Erin. I don't know if I summed it up correctly or not.
Oh, yes. They haven't, they meaning the owners of 5 Research Parkway, haven't applied for their building demolition permit yet, but I believe they're waiting for this administrative approval from Wetlands, and then they're gonna go ahead. The planning department has reviewed it thoroughly, the water department has, both of those departments have comments, and my comments, everything was incorporated into the plans you see tonight. And I have another plan here that incorporated the most recent planning and zoning and water division comments. It just beefed it up even more in terms of protecting, in terms of refueling and scraping the asphalt off, not washing it off, things like that. At the end of the day, that kind of thing, and other things. The planning and zoning is going to require a $7,000 bond. They're not going to need a application. That's what they're requiring. And I believe water division was $15,000.
What does planning and zoning's bond cover?
Oh, gosh. She told me today.
And what about water and sewer? I mean, are they both soil and erosion control bonds?
I don't know what Water and Sewer calls its bond, but yes, everybody's concerned about the water, yes, even planning and zoning. It's all about handling the materials, they're crushing some stone on site, so they're gonna do misting, planning department required misting of the stone as it's crushed to keep the dust down. It was all to do with where the stockpiling is of the crushed materials and the trucks. But primarily, everybody's most concerned about erosion control. So planning and zoning is erosion control, yes.
Okay, any concerns from the commission? Ally?
I guess not. We went through a whole lot to make sure that none of this got into the headwaters of the Muddy River, and that's all gonna be sustained the same way as they had planned before.
Yes, this proposal which you see in front of you is not the same as the one that was approved on November 7th. This is a
Right.
separate proposal because it was denied in planning and zoning, so they came in with this is a new demolition scheme you're looking at, which just focuses on the building. They're not ripping up this is important, they're not ripping up any parking lot, which they were before in what was approved in November, and they're not ripping up any, grassed areas under this demolition.
Okay, no, I have no more.
Just
no
the
other
buildings. And the pipes that's capping under the buildings, but it's just the buildings.
comments. Okay, I have no questions.
I have a concern about the misting. If the buildings are going to be demoed and misted, that's where they take a big machine and they spray water on, basically to keep the dust down and it's to prevent a fire. Should we be concerned about the mud that's going to create either in stockpiling or as they're taking the buildings down, as far as weepage going into the wetlands?
Yes, and that's why we required an elaborate erosion control plan. So there's something like 26 catch basins, each of them has a filter sac in it, each catch basin. There's hay bales, there's a double row of silt fence and hay bales around the outer rim. There's protection where and there's one area is going to be fueling, there's protection there. There's all sorts of protections built into this thing. Water Division was very concerned about this.
Is the on-site liaison going to be there to oversee this whole project or no?
No, you're referring to what we call the implementation monitor? No, that is not part of this, because this is a small piece of the grander project that was approved in November. And for that, if it ever comes to be and we go forward with that kind of big development, we were going to advertise for an implementation monitor. It would take, a month, at least a month to get someone on board for that.
All right.
This is a much reduced scale here.
Have you looked at the locations where the 26 catch basins are going to be laced with the fabric? So when that fabric gets polluted or contaminated, the water's going to build up and move down to the next one. So after you go through 26 catch basins, where's the water going to go? And what's the maintenance on these catch basins? Are they going to replace the fabric as it gets contaminated and it can't be used the way it's supposed to be?
I believe all eyes are on this, so BL is on the plans you have, I think, in the column there. BL has the job of they're under contract to go out there and do a weekly report of the erosion controls. So I'm sure they're going to be on it, and everyone's going to be watching it like a hawk. In addition, the Water Division has permission to go out there whenever they want to check the erosion controls. And I have permission to go out there definitely at the onset and upon request, to check the erosion controls as this demolition goes forward.
Okay, thank you.
Dave?
Where does the demolished building go to? I mean, does that get hauled away?
Well, yes, the short answer is yes.
Right.
I didn't bone up on where everything's going. I know they're doing asbestos removal now, and then we're concerned with the outside of the building, which is what this is, this application.
They're going to stockpile it though, right? My understanding is they're going to crush it and stockpile it for use, or they're going to haul it off-site?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I could find out for you. I know they're gonna temporarily stockpile it, but for how long? Just, I don't know if that's, a week, 2? But I didn't answer fully your question before, Nick, about, yes, all these 26 catch basins and some of the road runoff, yeah, it comes and it goes down into that first small pond. That's where it's going first. I'm sorry, that's for the main building. There's 2 demolition sites, the main building, and all that goes into that first small pond, when you go into the pond, the little pond on the right side, okay? The gas plant, that's a little different, and some of it will go off into, as it does today, there's a discharge going off into the Muddy River toward the Eversource border. So that would be east toward the Eversource border, and that's where part of it goes.
Okay, Debbie?
No.
Mike?
No question.
Okay, then does the commission have any reason not to grant an administration approval?
No, I don't.
And if not, everything seems to be fine. So granted administration approval. Okay, application A 19, 2.1, 23 Wetasic Drive, Joseph T. Wetasic. This gentleman clear cut, or took, I guess it was clear cut, primarily as 1, 2, 3 major trees along the brook, and Aaron is aware of it.
I just want to point out, it's down, this is a 2-part thing. He's also down under the violation section.
Okay, this is the application for after the fact tree removal, which ties to notice of violation number 4. What's our
Yes.
status, Aaron?
Well, tonight I handed out the violation, the application. On your packet, you got the notice of violation letter. That went out like, I don't know, 10 days ago or whatever. Tonight you got, he did come in as requested in that notice of violation letter. He did come in for an after-the-fact application pertaining to the removal of the 75-foot oak tree. That's the application's for. And also the removal, I don't know if it's written on there, but he also is going to remove the leaf pile that has been accumulating for years on the edge of the stream corridor. So he also was going to remove that as well. And I guess he's not here tonight, but he did say, that I said I would tell the commission about that every summer he goes to Maine and he digs up little native pines on his property in Maine, and he's planting them along the stream corridor. But I do want to point, which is a good thing that something's being planted. The reason I think the pines are a plus for him is the oak trees were staining his pool liner, and that's why he removed the oak tree. And oak leaves have a lot of tannin, and they're stain worse than other trees. Well, I wanted to say that I took that photograph off the assessor's GIS map that you were handed out tonight. It's a color image of this property, 23 Wetasic Drive. And I drew in where the oak trees that were recently removed and the ones that had been removed in the past. But then I noticed, if you look at it, you see Catlin Brook, and then you look at the stream corridor. On the other side, there's like a 75-foot buffer, intact buffer, how a stream corridor is supposed to look. And on this side, it's manicured, oh gosh, pretty close to the stream. And you can just see it very graphically, the difference on the 2 sides of Catlin Brook in here. The one being how we like stream corridors to look for a healthier environment and for better water quality.
Okay, so is there any discussion, commissioners?
So you brought that to our attention, that the other side of the brook has a nice 75-foot buffer of trees. You think he's been gradually going into the upland review area to manicure his lawn out farther and farther?
Well, when I was out there, I didn't have my tape measure, but I'm pretty good at the 50 feet, eyeballing it after all these years. And the 50 feet pretty much goes to he has like a chain link fence around his pool. You can see the pool there. So that's pretty much 50 feet. So, but still, that area is manicured. You can see between the
Oh, yeah.
chain link fence, that area is a lawn now. So, we see this a lot, creep. We see creep a lot. People like their backyards.
Okay. We can act upon this tonight because it's a correction to the violation, correct?
Technically, no. Technically, no. It's just like any other application,
Well, then there's nothing to deal with it until next month.
correct? We can't put that oak tree back, but this is something we can do.
Okay. All right. But the commissioners have no problem with the granting the application at this point, right? All right, so as we come down.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, can I make one other point? I think I might have shared this with you in a fax or something, but it struck me, and we'll be talking about it later in the evening. Something this gentleman said on this property, he said, I said, well, I guess you didn't know about the 50-foot upland review area. And he goes, oh, no, I knew about that. I knew about it. I said, so why didn't you think you needed a permit? And he goes, I wasn't filling a wetland. I wasn't filling a wetland. And this is true. A lot of folks don't get that cutting a tree down in a wetland is also a violation. It also impacts that wetland. But in his mind, he wasn't filling. I think this might be true for a lot of people. They understand the deposition, the filling, something you can see, filled wetland, as opposed to removing a tree that's been living there for whatever, 75 years, whatever it was, shading, providing thermal regulation for that stream, providing habitat. The roots are holding in the side of that floodplain because that river floods. So, but it made an impression on me.
Okay, so we can go past the reports and communications for now. Violations, notice of violations, 988 East Center Street. Status on that?
I don't know if Mr. Senaviva wants to come up and talk about that.
Benchmark land development.
I got a letter today.
I did give her a letter today.
You did?
I did.
Regarding this problem?
Regarding this matter, yeah. What I did is, you may recall back in, I think it was December, we had David Lord here to present some of the information about the wetlands, the quality of the wetlands behind that building that had been filled, as we acknowledged. And so I think the sense was there was conversation amongst the commission that we ought to come up with a master plan. I think that might have been yours, Mr. Chairman. And so what we've done in the interim, I've provided to Aaron a copy of where that master plan is. So since that time, Godfrey Hoffman, the engineer, has prepared a plan which would entail removing the existing building, creating a new, remediating the wetlands that's been filled, creating additional wetlands and a vegetative buffer, moving the building to the front of the site, which would be the southwest side of the property, moving that existing retaining wall further west, so you'd have an area for the trucks to turn around in the front instead of behind the building, which I think was the preference of this commission. At least that was a pretty clear sense that I got. So we're just about done with the plan. One of the issues is the fact that this is a future watershed. It's not your watershed, but Water and Sewer says this is part of your future watershed. So you have to develop it in a way that's consistent with the watershed requirements, i.e. sand filters, for example. And this, again, another flat site. So Godfrey Hoffman's having some difficulty laying out the sand filter. And we also have to meet with Mrs. Hand about zoning compliance too. So we're moving. We wanted to present you at least the draft of that master conceptual plan. and let you know that we've talked to Water and Sewer, there's a proposed septic system to be installed in the front southwest corner of the property. We've talked to the health department, and we're moving forward. I mean, my client would like to get it resolved as much as you would, so we are moving forward with a master plan, and we'll be here with an application.
And you'll give us back our 50-foot upland review area.
That was the plan.
That was clear?
You made it pretty clear.
Okay.
I do remember that,
I
Mr.
was better
Chairman.
that night, not tonight. Better that night. Okay, so, and when do you think that's all gonna take place?
Well,
I'd hate to see
No, I understand. I don't
next
want this-
June, we sit here and say, well, we're gonna do this.
No, without being facetious. I mean, my client wants to get it moved. I'm not sure why it's taking so long, but we're all motivated. Well, I should say the owner is, because it's costing him a lot of money. So we want to get it done. And I think the last issue, when I met with the engineer 2 weeks ago, again, was this, trying to figure out how to fit the sand filter on the site, make it work. Really, I mean, I guess we had the problem at 6 Research, you may recall, that we had to bring in some cover because it's just difficult sometimes to get the pitch. And so I know they're working on that, but, my suggestion to the engineer was to sit down with the Water and Sewer and work something out, because we can't wait, nor do you want to wait for any lengthy period of time. We've already waited long enough.
It's interesting. This is the first time I heard about a future water supply. And I think this drainage system ends up below the dam at the old Mackenzie Reservoir. Is that true? I don't know. I never searched it out.
No, I'll find out. All I know is that that we have to design it as if it's in the watershed, but it is not.
That's interesting. It's interesting to know.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm glad you're heading in that direction, but I don't want to see it, next June and we haven't done anything yet.
Understood.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Mary, do you have anything else on tonight?
No, that was it. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks. Okay, item 2 under notice of violation, application A60.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you affirm the notice of violation for 988? Actually, I'm going to ask if you
Well,
affirm all your notices of violation tonight,
Okay,
because the
so
law
we're
department likes
still,
that.
in other words, you want us to say that violation is still in effect?
Yes,
Is that good enough?
yes, and for all of them that are going to be still in effect unless they're released.
Notice of violation for application A16 2.1, 530 Church Street, Joe Maneri. Aaron?
Okay, you recall, December 5th meeting up in room 315, Mr. Ranieri came, some of the neighbors, some of the lot owners, the new lot owners came, and there was a lot of work to be done. And the commission directed me to go out there. Actually, Joe Maneri, the developer, asked that I go out there with the town engineer and get very explicit at exactly what we wanted and how to do it, and we did on December 14th, very cold day, we went out there, and it was when coming away from that, I anticipated he would get on it right after the weekend. It was a Friday, and he says, Monday, we're gonna get on it. Well, that didn't happen for about a month, and then he has now complied. I'd say 70% of the work is done. Some of the work that's not done is too frozen, like in the back. That basin's too frozen. He's gonna have to go in the spring and repair that side of that basin. But he did most of the other work. He didn't put the straw mulch all on the lot 1, which is the lot that faces Church Street, or is corner of Church Street. He just did around the edge, and I kept on bugging him, get the whole lot mulched. And then, So I was disappointed because we had a big rainstorm in that interim period. So what can I say? It was after the rainstorm, but then he did 80% of the work, and he'll have to go back and do the rest in the spring, which would include restoring that basin, getting it back.
Well, I will say this, the mud used to run down 68 from that front lot, but at least with the minimal amount of hay bales that he used, that part did stop. Okay, but that violation is still in effect also. Number 3, 52 Hanover Street, Quinnipiac River, Mary Jane Webster Legace and Frank Vitale.
The owner is here today, or the resident, Frank Vitale, spelled differently. Speak into the microphone.
Just your name and address for the record, please.
Frank Vitale, 52 Hanover Street.
All right, you've been working closely with Aaron, so Aaron, you want to bring us up on this, up to date on this?
Okay. I got a phone call, a complaint, actually was from the president of the Quinnipiac River Watershed Association about tree cutting, significant tree removal on 52 Hanover Street. Now, 52 Hanover abuts Pregman Park. So a few people called me and they all saw it from the vantage point of Pregman Park. Tonight in the audience is the chairman of the Conservation Commission. She also reported this to us. As soon as I heard about it, I alerted the sewer division because they have a sewer easement that runs right across the bank of the river all along there. And I went out there with the chairman of the Conservation Commission and we looked at it. I took photographs. There's 34 trees that were cut. Oh gosh, the biggest one may be 14 inches. They weren't very large. Most of them are more like 9 inches or so, or 8 inches smaller than that. But basically, most of the trees on the lower 50-foot slope back from the river in that area. Not all of them. You can see in the photo, I'll pass around more photographs, but in your notice of violation that went out, there were like 4 photographs, I believe. I have like 20 photographs here. So there are a few mature trees left there. Some of the bigger trees were left. There were trees cut in the river. This photograph shows about 3 trees cut actually that were growing with their feet in the river. Maybe they started life not actually in the water because with the erosion in the Quinnipiac, maybe those trees recently are now growing in the river. I don't know. Anyway, but not only were the trees cut, every piece of vegetation was removed. Every vine, every shrub, every seedling, every sapling, every acorn, every leaf. And I inquired when I talked to the owner, how did that happen? And he informed me he used a leaf blower to get the leaves off. Now, which made me realize for most of our tree removal cases, the folks don't take the leaf bed, the leaf litter under that forest. They might take a tree, they don't remove all the leaves. So the leaves serve as your natural erosion blanket, okay? Well, they're gone. When I inquired as to the owner why this happened, and he said, well, there's 2 reasons. One is when he goes down to the river, there's a lot of poison ivy and he's got young kids, poison ivy and catbrier. So he wanted to get rid of all that, but also because it's right up against Pregman Park, folks come across, they trespass, and he can't even see them sometimes down there because in the summer the vegetation was so thick he couldn't even see who might be down there enjoying the riverbank. Fishermen or picnickers. Now the cyclone fence between this property and Pregman Park is broken at that point. The Park and Rec folks, the Public Works folks did put some giant concrete blocks there, but you can squeeze through them. They're really to keep the ATVs out, and they do keep the ATVs out, but they don't keep pedestrians out. So it's quite a significant impact, quite a violation. I'll let Mr. Vitale explain what his understanding of any regulations were of this area. It is his property. This is not an encroachment, which we see sometimes somebody cutting down stuff on other people's property or our property, our meaning the town's property. So if you read the notice of violation that went out in the packet, you'll see that he was given a bunch of directives. One was to show up tonight, which he is here tonight. I'm pleased to see that. He was told to contact Roman and Brzezinski, Southwest Conservation District. That group was on furlough, but they're back in operation now. So Roman has been instrumental in working with me and the owner, and we've developed a plan. It's not quite ready, but on site, we developed a verbal plan. A quote was gotten from, we met out there this week with a contractor. I'll let the owner explain how that's going with the contractor. And the plan that was laid out in your notice of violation, we modified it a little bit with Roman's recommendations, plus being more realistic about what we could get there. So there's two parts of the plan. One is the temporary erosion control, get that in. And the second part is in the spring, is the planting plan. Both of which the owner is willing to go to do and complete with the help, with the expertise of Roman. And I'll be down there checking the erosion controls. The other piece to this is I reached out to the Quinnipiac River Watershed Association. Primarily at first to report back to them. They want to know what was done, what's going to be done about this, what can anyone do about this. And in the process of that, I reached out to them and I said, you know, this is significant. I don't know. I know the Quinnipiac River Watershed Association cares deeply about that corridor and has lots of programs to keep that corridor from getting further degraded. They have every year a cleanup effort that goes on, and all sorts of public education projects, working with children, all sorts of things that this group does. And in that conversation, turned out that they would be willing to perhaps donate something toward the revegetation, restoration of this slope. It is a slope. I mean, it's very steep, which increases the problem with the runoff, with the erosion. So I don't know how many of you are aware of the fact that the town does donate $5,000 a year to the Quinnipiac River Watershed Association. And there's a series of membership towns that that do support that group. So, because, you know, there's a fair amount of work out there, so that might be a consideration here.
Mr. Vitale. Share with us. Name and address first.
What's that?
Name and address first.
Frank Vitale, 52 Hanover Street. I just wanted to clear out the yard, open area to make it look better. There's a lot of poison ivy, ticks, and people coming from the park, hanging out, throwing their garbage there, people fishing. And when we first moved there, it was dirt bikes too, but that's not anymore because of those big cinder blocks. So I started in the summer on the upper level and just went all the way down to the river, ended in the fall.
So, obviously you found out that that's a violation of
Right,
our
I didn't know that I couldn't do
So
anything.
you got a plan to do some mediation there?
Yeah, like Aaron said, we got working with Roman and the landscaper, and hopefully he calls tomorrow and we can get this going. So we talked about it the other day, and just ready to get it going.
Good. All right, so he's on the way to get it corrected.
Yes, I didn't hear that. Is it going forward?
I didn't hear from the landscaper yet, but
Oh.
I think tomorrow, hopefully. He said he was really busy, so.
All right. If I could just describe briefly what the plan is going forward with the contractor. It is a layer of hay mulch, which I contacted local farmers and it's available, and they will deliver on site, which is good, with no delivery fee. Hay mulch all over basically the whole area that was denuded. Then using filter socks. Those are those snake-like things. They're called filter socks. There's some other names. Some people call them wattles. And they're great because this is an undulating slope, so there's even a gully in the middle of it, which is a bad drainage area. It'll go down. This will be staked at the top to slow the rate of the flow, at the middle, and then at the bottom, hay bales staked along the edge, the top of the bank of the river. Those hay bales won't be trenched in. The soil is so sandy there that we didn't want to dig around and trench them in, so those will just be staked in down there. But also, you'll see in some of the pictures, there's a series of tree trunks, because They were cut at around 3.5, 4 feet high, these tree trunks, so they're left standing. The owner intended to remove them to stump the area in the spring. I'm glad that didn't happen. That's why he left the trunk standing there so he could wrap a chain around them and get them that way. But anyway, these trunks down by the river, we can use as a brace. Those 3 trees in the river, the plan is to take them out and put them on the top of the bank, and they'll be braced in by the trunks that are standing vertical. Of course, over time, maybe those trees will die and everything rot away, but at least now that will provide a sort of like a little wall along half of the degraded area where appropriate, where it makes sense. Not for the whole area, but where it made sense with the few trunks that are still standing up in the air. The material will be taken out of the river. The 3 trees I just mentioned that were cut lying in the river, and some of the brush that'll be removed in this project. Then that's temporary erosion control. Then in the spring, I'll be working with Roman and the owner to develop a planting plan. This is not like a regular planting plan because the soils, you got the slope to deal with, you got the soils which are very soft but also dry. These are dry soils. And then you have the shade from some of the existing trees. So it's not the best place. You can't just go put a bunch of shrubs in. They're not going to take. We have to, Roman is suggesting red osier willows along the bank so the bank doesn't erode. You buy them with the rootstocks hanging down and you plant them with the roots, they're called plugs. You plant them that way. You don't buy them in a pot. And I suggested some native seedlings, trees, small trees, because on the surrounding properties you have the young trees growing under the big trees. They're adapted to grow in the shade. Mostly oaks. There was ironwood and some other species there, but they're adapted to grow in the low light there. And I'd like the park department to repair that cyclone fencing. I also suggested to the owner that he put up a sign, private property, no trespassing. Of course, maybe this sign will come down, but at least, you have to advertise that this is, I think perhaps some people do think that it's town property. There's a trail there. The people have worn this trail for, 30 years. There's a trail along the sewer easement there. They might think, well, this is an extension of Bregman Park. I don't know. I think it's important to put up the signage.
Nick? Mary, you're here to represent the Watershed Association? Come on up to the mic, please.
I just want to say I was shocked when I saw this property because it looks like Mars. I mean, it's so bare. But to me, the big issue here is I think a lot of people that live along the rivers and streams are totally unaware of their obligations and the things they can't do. And I wonder if there's some way we could think about notifying abutters so that they would know in the future. And I'm really glad that Mr. Vitale is, working with the town and they're going to fix it. And I hope that the fence repair or something there will happen so people can't keep walking on his property.
I have a couple questions for you because I know you're involved in it. Where is the linear trail, the next phase of the linear trail that's supposed to go up through there? Is that in the close by to where this property has been disturbed?
I don't know about the linear trail.
No? Because my concern is that there's a printout of where the third phase or the next phase of the linear trail is going to go from Westbrook Lobster north. And I believe all the property owners in that area gave permission or gave their land, donated their land to the linear trail people so that they could put the trail down along the sewer easement that you're talking about.
Excuse me. I don't know if everybody gave permission. I'm not sure. I think there was one person, at least when I moved there, that wasn't ready to give it up. I don't know if I've been here for 18 years, so I'm not sure if that's still in.
Well, that's what I'm trying to surface here is if she's going to have you spend all this money to restore this, is it going to be in conjunction to what the linear trail people want to go through there and do? Because I hate to see you put trees up and then in 2 or 3 years when they come through that property, they're gonna wanna modify it, because if you look at what they've done so far, they've kind of gone through the woods and clear cut everything they wanted, and they put their nice trail down so bicycles can ride, or people can, with wheelchairs or whatever, but I would like to know where you are in conjunction to this, because my understanding is it was gonna run right along the side of the river, and the pictures that the environmental planner gave us tonight shows you're right along the river where you've clear cut. So instead of having him spend this time and money to restore this,
This is fascinating. I know nothing about this. I will find out about this proposed linear trail in that vicinity. I've never seen a drawing like that. I'm very interested in this. And of course, using that sewer easement makes sense. There's a 15-foot wide sewer easement that goes through there.
the only reason I'm aware of it is because I have a relative that owns a piece of property on Hanover Street, and his father gave the linear trail people that section of it, and he's upset about it because he grows things down along the river, the Haxes, Hax family. Yeah, they have a piece down there, and he grooms it, and he grows vegetables and plants and stuff, and he has a little pond that he grows fish, I guess, or whatever. So I'm just wondering where this is in conjunction where the gentleman here is disturbed, if it's, so we're not having him spend money foolishly and then have the linear trail come through.
And take it all down.
Okay, I'd like to say a few things. I'll definitely find out about this proposal. I don't know anything about that. But you can't really plant a tree, you shouldn't plant a tree on a sewer easement because the sewer division will just chop it down one day when they get around to maintaining it. So we weren't going to propose planting any trees within that 15-foot sewer alignment area, okay? But more to the point, we gotta fix this now. This thing's eroding. It eroded in that last storm. We got the 4 inches. Some people say we got 4 inches. What was it, a week ago? Mm-hmm. The erosion looked very different from these pictures. It had moved on. The erosion had gotten worse since I took the pictures. So we gotta stop the erosion and put some little plantings there. Who knows when this trail will ever get built, the one you're discussing, Nick? I mean, how many years would that be before the construction actually happens? So we gotta stop the erosion now.
All right, you talked about pulling 3 trees out of the river and then setting them up on the bank. Why don't you leave those for stabilization? Because you talked about how loose the soil is over here. It's what they call bank run gravel. I mean, it takes very little water to disturb it. That's why the river's as wide as it is. Have them leave those trees there. Will they sprout in the spring? Will they come out with runners or whatever? And just, a lot of times you cut a tree down, and if you leave the stump there or a partial stump there.
Oh, we're not taking the stumps out. No one no one discussed, unless you can correct me, Mr. Vitale, no one discussed taking any stumps out. These are cut trees, correct?
Right. I misunderstood you. I thought I just heard you say that we're gonna pull those trees out and set them up on the bank.
Well, yeah, the cut trees. You can see them in the pictures. They're about yay big, and they're about, I don't know, 20 feet long, 30 feet long. 30 feet long, 25 feet long, and yay, 8 inches.
Tops that I think
They're
You're talking about-
laying in the
Yeah,
river. They're
yeah.
laying in the
Oh,
river.
tree stumps.
Yeah, and they got hung up, and then they're all hung up there where they fell.
Okay, all right.
We would never suggest taking out the roots. No. Some of these things might resprout, I don't know. We'll see.
Very possible. Dave?
Has anybody approached you about the easement to build a trail?
No, they haven't.
Debbie?
No.
Mike?
No questions.
I just want to say one more thing. The president of the Quinnipiac River Watershed Association wanted to be here tonight. He intended to be here, but he was called out of state at the last minute. So he did drop off the literature that they mail out to folks along the river, up and down the river, all the towns. And I'll provide Frank with a copy of that. But basically it describes to homeowners why they should care, why it's important to keep your river corridor vegetated, why it's important not to wash your car and let it drip down into the river or into the catch basin, which empties into the river, why it's important to keep the trees there for thermal regulation and to hold the banks of the river in, and why it's important to act as a floodplain. You want a vegetated floodplain. You don't want a cleared floodplain. All these things it describes. And I think with your approval, I'd like to do something in the paper. I haven't defined it yet. I've just been starting to think about it. To let people know, you know, what the value is of a river corridor, and what the regulations are, and why it's important. And it doesn't preclude enjoyment like that. If somebody like Mr. Vitale here wanted to get down to the river and there's too many briars and too much poison ivy, well, you can make a path down to the river. I mean, you don't have to clear cut the whole thing
All right.
to get down to the river.
Okay, you're saying notify the people along the side of the river, and if you already indicate there have notification for the people along the river. Okay.
This problem,
Make a comment, and I didn't say Mary Heffernan, 1680 East Side Drive. I think you should find out when the last time was they did that. Because I think
Right.
do you, Mr. Vitale, recall ever getting something like this from QRWA?
No.
I don't think it's been done for a long time.
Well,
So
then,
it's not like
if that's due to, again, there certainly should be an article from us to them or something in there. But that
Right.
would be notifying people along the river. You may be able to get a news story out of the reporter just being a news story rather than a paid advertisement.
I don't mean pay.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I think we can move on at this time. Okay, you're heading in the right direction. I don't see anything that we can offer, any more suggestions than you've already done. So I think it's now just waiting for springtime or waiting to get things stable to where you are.
And if you could affirm that the notice of violation is still in effect.
Okay, this is to confirm that violation is still in effect, but you're on the right track to handle it.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
This is a copy, please.
Okay, notice of violation, Watasik. I'm just curious whether that notice of violation stays in with the application in. I think it would stay in, it would not be much different. So we'll leave that notification in. Okay, application of A15 6.1. This is 69 Cheshire Road, Luigi Del Bono. Now, Aaron's busy at the moment, but my understanding is that, wait a minute.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, we're on Luigi Del Bono.
Okay, tonight I handed out a copy of the notice of violation letter. I know you got a lot of literature handed out tonight. All right, so this only came to the fore because he went to the building department for a C of O, certificate of occupancy. He was selling the property. Otherwise, you know, I might have waited till the spring when I went out to check the plants to see what plants made it through the winter and so on. Anyway, so he was pushing to get his C of O, and that's how this came about. And because he was transferring the property, it's imperative to get on it because the permit wasn't complete. In other words, he has a few years to finish his permit, but when you transfer the property, all that can slip through the cracks. So that was the reason the letter went out. By this letter, he was informed, and I was working with the law department, at the closing, he was informed that he had to inform the attorneys, at the closing attorneys involved, that there was a pending piece to this permit, which would involve coming back on the site and doing the plantings. He has a $5,000 bond. It wasn't for erosion control, it was for plantings. And he's got that, so he's got to finish the plantings. He did do some plantings a few years ago. Some of them died, and wasn't all of them back there. And so I don't know how much detail you want, but it's not done yet.
Okay, so we're holding the bond regardless of who owns the property. And that's Mr. Del Bono's obligation to get the plantings in to get the bond released.
Correct.
Okay.
The other part of this, Jim, is that the new owners of the property need to be notified that these shrubs aren't to be pulled out after he puts them in. They have to understand that part of the agreement with this lot to have it built the way it was, the after effect is that the plantings he's putting in need to stay there. Because what I don't want to have happen is he puts the shrubs in, gets his bond back, and then a month later, these guys pull all that stuff out because they want to have more backyard or whatever. So the new owners need to be aware of what's going on. We need to notify them that, hey, this is what's happening. It needs to stay where
It's a good idea. I can send a
Right,
letter to
only
the
be-
new owners.
Has the property changed hands yet? Closing?
It was supposed to happen a week after that letter's dated. What's the date on the letter?
Okay,
January.
all right, so we don't, all right. So that's good. Anything else on Del Bono, anyone? No. Okay, we have another item. We have Mr. Giuliano requested the commission's input on a project that may be up and coming. And he doesn't want the person who owns the property to spend a lot of money on engineering and attorney fees and et cetera, if we don't see, if we see a problem with the application.
So the property, and for the record, Christopher Giuliano, licensed engineer and professional surveyor. The property address is 32 Whiffletree Lane, which is a West Farms Estate subdivision off of Parker Farms Road on the west side of town. The first sheet in the package I handed out basically is highlighting which lot it is. It's basically at the end of the cul-de-sac, and you can see from the subdivision map that there's a wetland towards the rear of the property. Basically what the homeowner wants to do, and if you go through the pictures, they're not the greatest, but you can kind of get the idea. The first picture shows that there's a retaining wall kind of on the right side of that picture. It's about 20-25 feet off the back of the house. Then the lower flat area, and there's a fence on the westerly side. Right on the other side of that fence is the wetlands and the watercourse. What they really want to do is they want to basically build a new retaining wall, and they were hoping to build it basically about a foot off the fence on the easterly side, so away from the watercourse, and then fill that area between the two, existing wall and the new wall to be able to get a more usable backyard. And what I did is I just had a couple pictures taken just so you can get an idea of what the wall was. The third picture is kind of significant because that is the southerly side where the wall kind of terminates into the ground, and you can kind of look up to the side of the house and you can see the fence wraps around the house. That whole slope right now is bare earth. So they're unable to grow grass in that area, and when I was out there before the snow was on the ground, when I had met with the homeowner, there you could start to see little rills in the dirt going down towards the watercourse. So I kind of looked at it, and I thought that with the erosion potential that's there, the fact that there's the fence already along the wetland corridor and the lower area that's already been disturbed, maybe putting a new wall in and keeping all of their residential activities kind of confined more away from the wetland because they'd be up higher on a raised area because of the wall might not be the worst thing. But again, I didn't want to go through the cost of surveying their property, designing a wall to come to this commission if it's something that you disagree with kind of my assessment on it. If you kind of go to the next picture, you can kind of look to the south, the southerly property, and it kind of baffles me, but I can see a culvert here under the property, so it looks like at some time that wetland corridor may have been filled on the property to the south, so the wetlands basically start really almost at the edge of this property and continue to the north. And it's a pretty defined channel. You can definitely see all the brush and trees that are kind of down, scrub in that area. Basically no activity would happen from the fence to the west. In fact, the removal of the fence, I've already talked with the homeowner and the potential contractor about cutting the fence at grade, so we wouldn't rip up the concrete footings. And then, if the commission allowed it, I'd also call for some plantings just to the westerly side of the fence to help protect that slope a little bit more. So that kind of gives you an idea of what I was thinking. I just would like the commission's input to whether or not it's something that you could entertain and, the homeowner could, would be spending money to have this done.
Can we ask some questions?
Yeah. Go ahead, Nick.
I'll let Dave be first because I'm always the assholes.
Okay. Okay, so you're gonna put in a new retaining wall. What would you make it out of? Would this be wood or would this be concrete?
It would be concrete block, and basically it would be My preference would be do an Atlas concrete block. I call them the giant Legos. They're about 2 feet tall, 2 feet wide, about 3 feet long, and they have the dimples on the top,
Yeah.
so they interlock with each other. And they're, machined to bring them in, and everything can be built from basically the property side, so we obviously stay away from the wetlands and the existing chain link fence once we get it down. So it would basically go in and come up, and then we could just backfill basically between the two walls, and that way we're contained, and that way there's less potential for sediment and erosion into that wetland corridor behind.
Have you ever done a project like this before?
We've done walls like this before, yes.
Where are they gonna discharge the pool water into the wetlands?
I don't really know where they discharge the pool water into, but there's an above-ground pool already on the property. I can ask the question of what they do. Most times, I believe that the water is pumped out and pumped in. I don't think they actually put in a pump. But let me ask that
Well,
question.
I'm referring to the water from the skimmer. I believe there's neighbors, we went out there and did a site walk for the neighbors. I can't remember what the name was, but we let them build right up to the fence so they could put an in-ground pool in.
Okay.
And this is these pictures look similar to the same environment, the topo and everything. I can't remember what the name was, but the commission walked out there and we gave them permission to do this. That's what I'm asking. Basically, I'm asking, is this going to be for an in-ground pool? And this is the start of a...
That I can't answer. There is an above-ground pool already on the property. Okay, I can tell you that because I was physically out here and saw it. I was not told that this was for an in-ground pool, but I will ask that question. I don't believe it is going to be because both the homeowner's father, who was out there, and the contractor mentioned that the existing wood retaining wall, they'd take the first couple layers, top layers of the wood off, and they would leave it in place, and then cover over with dirt and everything else. So that leads me to believe that this is not planned for an in-ground pool, but I will confirm that.
Would you say that again? Where's they were gonna take the top layers of wood off?
There's an existing
That's a wood?
That's existing timber tie wood retaining wall.
Timber ties. I thought it was a block.
No, so they're gonna take the top 2-3 layers off when they backfill and then just cover over it, and it
And
should.
they're gonna leave those there?
Yeah, and it should stay.
Stayed this long?
Yes, it has, and once it's buried.
Now,
it won't be.
what's the material that's gonna be on the top of this wall? On this, is it grass, gonna be grass?
Yeah, up above the wall, there is grass up there,
No,
topsoil.
when they finish, the new suggestion.
The new area will be grass, so they'll bring the lawn out to the new block wall so that they have a more usable area.
Ally?
I'm okay with that.
Debbie?
No, no question.
Mike?
I'm fine with that.
As much as I want to protect that upland review area, in this case, if you're going to put the grass on the top, I don't see where it's a lot different than the grass down the bottom. So as long as that grass is draining towards, using it as a filtering mechanism going into the wetlands, I'm not sure I have a big issue with it.
Okay.
I don't know, of course, between Aaron and reviewing a plan, whatnot, but I'm replacing grass down here with grass up here.
I have no concern, Chris. If there's a pool going in, I'd like to address where the wastewater is gonna go, okay? Because of the product that's in the pool. If it's chlorine or whatever, that's my concern. I'm not opposed to if the commission feels so inclined, but if it is gonna be a pool, we need to just...
That might be a little different. That's where I'm glad Nick brought that up.
So am I, because I was not envisioning that there could be a pool here, but the fact by making it, it's a perfect area where they could do it, so, it's something I can ask, and even if it's something in their future, at least I'll know and I'll be able to address it when I come before you with a, formal application. So I appreciate having a heads up, because it's not something I would have thought about, but now I can get that into the design if necessary.
Well, it's one of the questions from the neighbor that we did, the neighbors. There's another one on that loop, in the Wolf Tree loop, that we approved of, and one of the questions we told them was, what's gonna happen with those spoils from the pool? we didn't want them dumped into the wetlands because of the chemicals that would destroy the wetlands.
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, now, Erin hasn't seen this.
No, and what I'll do is,
You probably should give her some
I will give her
information.
one, and then I can report back to my client and see if
Yeah.
now they want to proceed, and at least I have an understanding that it is, worthwhile. Appreciate it.
Okay. All right, anything else to come before this meeting tonight?
All right.
You want to take this?
These back, Chris, or?
Anything else to come before this meeting tonight? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The picture.